Eskom has flagged problems with South Africa's new electricity pricing rules. Now, this is in response to NERSA's approval of new energy price determination rules. Notably, this change will see the removal of the regulatory clearing account, the RCA. NERSA accuses Eskom of misusing the RCA by trying to recover revenue lost due to its own inefficiencies. While on the other hand, the power utility is pushing back, saying NERSA's methodology is untested, vague and unimplementable. Professor Sampson Mamphweli, head of the Energy Secretariat at the South African National Energy Development Institute, joins us now to unpack what all this means for you and I. Prof, a very good evening and thank you so much for joining us.
Good evening to you and the viewers.
Prof, I mean, let's start right there. It's almost a little bit confusing to an ordinary consumer of electricity in South Africa. But what is at the heart of this impasse between NERSA and Eskom?
So in the past, both Eskom and NERSA used to rely on what we call the multi-year price determination methodology. And that methodology was quite clear, straightforward in terms of the calculations for them to do the electricity price determinations. So Eskom would go through the process of making their own calculations, submit to Eskom, to NERSA, requesting the tariff increases, and then NERSA will then do a counter calculation and then consider additional factors such as the inefficiencies of the Eskom systems, also the poor, what the impact would be on the poor, and many other things. Now, over and above that, after NERSA has allowed Eskom the particular tariff increase, after they've done their determination, they will then run through the particular financial year, which ends around the 31st of March of every year. And then afterwards, at the end of the financial year, Eskom will then look back and say, based on the tariff hikes that we got from NERSA versus the actual cost of generation, did we make the minimum allowable profit or did we make loss? If they made the loss, then they will go through what we call the regulatory clearing account, which is at the heart of this contention. Basically, they would make another determination and submit to Eskom, to NERSA, and say, we have made a loss, and the loss is to this particular extent. And then, in terms of the law, they were allowed to recover that loss in the next financial year. And they've gone through various court cases where Eskom actually won because Eskom engineers are quite good in terms of these calculations. So that is part of what is at the heart of the changes in terms of what NERSA has now approved. There are also issues around the demand profiles. In the past, Eskom would then look at the national demand profiles when they do their calculations to look at how much revenue they must generate and to look at the cost of generation. What NERSA is saying now is that they need to look at the individual profiles when they do these particular calculations. So those are some of the things where there's kind of a bone of contention. But in the main, it's basically the regulatory clearing account where NERSA is saying that it should not be the case going forward, where Eskom comes back and say we've made a loss and we would like to recover this loss going forward.
So this regulatory clearing account, the RCA, Prof, what is its main purpose? Because I think, as you say, that is exactly what is at the heart of this impasse.
So the main purpose of the regulatory clearing account is that there is an appreciation in the multi-year price determination methodology and the entire process that there could be some flaws that could be made both from the Eskom side and also from the NERSA side when they determine the price of electricity or the price of energy. And therefore, after Nersa has granted Eskom the tariff increase, at the end of the financial year, Eskom then needs to look at how much it produced, how much it costed them to generate electricity in the previous financial year, versus whether they were able to recover the cost of that generation from the tariffs that were approved by Nersa. If they were not able to recover such cost of generation, then they make another determination, which is now the regulatory clearing account, and then make a submission to Nersa and say, we had submitted to you that the cost of generation will be 100 billion rand, for instance, and you had given us, inclusive of the minimum allowable profit in terms of the law, a 90 billion rand based on your own determination, and the actual cost of generation was, say, 120 billion rand. So there's a deficit of about 30 billion rand or so, or whatever deficit that is there, over and above, the fact that they need to make profit. And then they would submit that to Nersa, and then Nersa will then allow them to include that money in the tariffs in the next financial year, before they make the next year, financial year's determination, because this was done on a multi-year kind of a situation. So the determination will be done over 3 years. They could say 10, 15, 20%, and then for the first 10%, there will be a loss, which will then be recovered through the regulatory clearing account. And then the following year, there's a confirmation of the 15% that was determined the previous year. And then over and above that, there is now another additional amount that needs to be added to the tariffs to recover the actual cost of generation, and also to recover the minimum allowable profit. So that is where the biggest bone of contention is. And Nersa is saying that Eskom has not been truthful in terms of their inefficiencies in the system. They have not been providing electricity, because of load shedding and other things, because their whole fleet basically is not operating at the required energy availability factor. So they need to push that energy availability factor to the energy availability factor that has been determined by Nersa. So those are some of the things that the two organizations are at loggerheads about. And for me, I think all that needs to happen is for the two to sit together and come up with a methodology that will be fair to everyone, including the public, because we know that part of the challenges that we're facing now is because of the fact that the Eskom tariffs have not been cost reflective for a very long time. So in other words, we have been paying much less on electricity than the cost of generation of electricity, and that was because of various factors. One of the main factors was that the South Africa needed to provide low-cost electricity to industry so that they can be manufacturing, and then we can have job creation. Therefore, the shortfall was always covered by government through what we call the shareholder injection, which is basically what other people refer to as bailouts, which are not necessarily bailouts. It's basically covering the cost, the loss.
Well, that's a scary thought, Professor, as you say that, which means that the electricity could be more expensive than what we are paying for at the moment. But as we went on the conversation, with all this said, what does this mean then to an ordinary consumer at home?
As things stand, Nersa has acknowledged that there could be some challenges in their methodology that they are proposing in the new determination method, and they are saying as kind of a fallback, they could go back to the original price determination methodology, the multi-year price determination methodology that they have been relying on. We are waiting to see whether that will be the situation or not. In terms of the actual price of electricity, if the current efforts by government to basically break up Eskom into 3 business units, go ahead smoothly, and transmission is able to buy electricity, and they're able to come up with various methodologies of buying electricity from IPPs as well as from Eskom generation, we could see the introduction of some competition to a certain extent. And if that competition comes on board, then it then means that the price of electricity will then have to go down. We've seen that with the REAP program that government has been running. The price of electricity in the REAP program on the renewable energy side has been going down drastically, following the price of technologies globally. So we anticipate that if the current process goes smoothly, and then Eskom starts to procure electricity from various sources, as opposed to the REAP program and only Eskom generation, then the price of electricity may go down.
It does sound, though, Professor Mamphweli, that it's a tedious and a lengthy process. Am I right that this is a process that might take a while to reach to a point where consumers are able to enjoy getting good electricity at a reasonable rate?
Yeah, it is a long process. This is a process that was started in 2019, if I remember well. However, it stalled because of many issues. But with the energy crisis, with the president, focusing a lot more on resolving the energy crisis, bringing in the electricity minister, and allowing Minister Godhan to focus specifically on that and other aspects of the shareholder compact, we have seen some form of speed. Now Eskom transmission has been established. They now have a very competent board. They've started looking at various models going forward in terms of how they are going to structure the electricity market. So even though it took this long, the interventions by the president, as things stand, led to what we are seeing now in terms of speeding up the process, and we anticipate that it won't take more than a year before the new board starts to present to us. I mean, in the next 6 months or so, they should be able to start presenting to the nation what kind of market they envisage will come into the South African landscape through Eskom transmission, and then in the next 8 to 10 months, they should be starting to procure electricity through that particular market if they've gone through the public participation processes, and there are concurrencies with Nersa and the DMRE as well.
Professor Mamphweli, thank you very much for taking time to speak to us. I appreciate your time.